In this episode of the Tech John, we discuss restaurants knowing your tipping habits, the flip camera challenges, is it a meme or cyberbullying, and women and people of color being underrepresented in podcasting. We got all this and more for you in episode 204 of the Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of New York City today, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. I guess I could call it healing childhood traumas. So I bought a remote control car this weekend because I can remember growing up, and you know we're all around the same age when that Sears Christmas
the catalog
came out. The one gift that I would always circle is a remote control car, and we got one. I've had them in the past as a kid, but they're cheap. And you take them out. Again, I'm in Indianapolis as a kid. So you get a remote control car. First thing you want to do is charge it up, get it out, and drive it. It's winter, weather, snow. So 1 year, get out there and run it for a couple days. After that, stop working. Clearly, water's got in there and messed it up. Other years, get out there, get ran over for cars. But they were all, and other years, it just, the good ones wasn't good. They were consumer grade good. They wasn't hobbyist, like invest a lot of money in these things good. So now that I got a little scratch on me, I decided,
disposable income and free will.
Got a little disposable income and a little bit of time, during lunch breaks. So I went out and spent some money and got me a nice remote control car. So I'm like I said, spending my little lunch breaks, a little free time before it gets too dark or too cold out, reliving my childhood memories.
Now, is this something you're just going to run around the house, or will you actually take it to one of those RC car parks?
No. Anything, I'm at an age where anything that sounds like work, I'm out. And if I got to sign up and register, and then I need to bring extra parts, and I need to, too much work already, I'm out. So I'll just run it around my backyard. I got a nice sizable backyard. And then the way our neighborhood is set up, the neighbors really don't have fences. So there's a nice big space behind all of our houses to where I can run it up and down in the grass. I live in a cul-de-sac, so I can run it around a circle. And really though, having kids, having bought things for kids for Christmas, who played with it for all of a week and then stopped playing with them. Really what I'm doing is I'm testing my son. My son is 8. And I want to get him a remote control car for Christmas. What I don't want to do is get him an expensive remote control car for Christmas that he don't use.
Okay.
So I took him with me on the weekend, took him to the hobby place. It's like a big hobby place. And they got, this is like Toys R Us for grown adults. They got all the toys that we grown adults will spend an enormous amount of money on, from games, board games, to all the things, all the remote controlled everything, but remote control airplanes, you name it, right? So I took him up there and I let him walk around, and I went into the whole remote control section, and they got the big cars, the little cars, the remote, you name it, they had it, right? So my whole plan is he went up there with me. I brought it home. I charged it up. He came home from school today, and I'm in the street. As soon as he get off the bus, I run the remote control car up the street. He chases it home, and I let him do the joystick, and I let him run it around in a circle. So it's like, all right, so I'm going to see how bad you sweat me to play this remote control car. And if you sweat me enough between now and Christmas, that's what you're getting under your gift.
You might want to get him one of the cheap ones to start out.
No. Yeah, I'm getting him the starter pack. I ain't getting him the joint I got, but at the same time,
get him the little one.
Yeah, I'll get him the sub $60, $70 one, because the one I got, it ain't cheap to start with. And then you go add extra batteries, and you upgrade the engine, and you upgrade the tires, and you add this and a bigger remote control. You get money, right? So we ain't doing all that. But at the same time, I'm at the stage now. It's like, all right, we just ain't giving y'all gifts and just y'all be messing with them. So We about to test it. And if you interested into it, like every time I go out, he'd be like, oh, can I go, Dad? All right, bet.
Mm-hmm. Or even
Yes, you
better
can,
yet,
son.
Dad, can we go? He asking you to
Yeah,
go. Oh, yeah, that'll let you know. That'll let you know. So
Yep,
you
yep.
got
So that's the
you got
plan.
5.5, 6 weeks to go. So you
Yeah, we'll see.
you'll see.
We'll see.
All right, y'all. So before we get into these tech stories, as always, let folks know how they can support the show. If you would like to become a supporter of the show, you can do so by becoming a Patreon. Head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Over there, you'll find multiple tiers, any one of which get you access to our live stream and after party. A couple of those tiers get you access to an RSS ad-free stream if you don't like those ads in the audio version of the show. So once again, if you would like to support the show, because what you do goes a long way to allow us to do what we do as far as bringing this tech to you the way that we bring it to you, is head over to thetechjob.com/Patreon. So we're going to kick things off with a story, Terrance, that you stuck in our rundown about all restaurants knowing we don't tip these days. And I really want you to explain this to me, because it sounds like that if you use these online reservations, they keep all kind of data on you, including how you tip and stuff like that. Is that what I'm reading right here?
For the most part, yeah. So if you reserve using Open Table, another popular one is Resy, RESY. If you are frequent on those apps when you go out to eat, whether it be brunch, date night, hanging out with your girlfriends, boyfriends, birthday parties, whatever the case may be, if you're using these apps to reserve tables, this story that I pulled up from The Verge kind of talks about how these restaurants, not necessarily the apps, the restaurants use the data that you're submitting via these apps, right? You would assume that, oh, all I'm giving them is my name, phone number, email address, the restaurant I want to go to, and what time I want to be there, and how many people coming, right? We think that's all the data we giving them, right? But what these
That's
apps are
it's
doing,
never all.
of course, especially that are free. There's no fee to use Open Table or Resy or any of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they getting something,
You're
and
the
what they're
product.
getting, you're the product, right? So what they're getting, according to this story, is they are matching, for lack of a better term, your reservation to what you are actually purchasing at the restaurant. So you go on Opal Table, me, Rob, and Steph, we're at table of 3, 6 o'clock at whatever restaurant. We via through Open Table. When you actually then go order appetizers, order food, order whatever, you think the restaurant's got my food, the app has got my reservation. They'd have figured out how to way to merge it to where now restaurants are pulling that data from Open Table and vice versa. And they're starting to tag or label people. Like, for instance, if you always order red wine when you're at this restaurant, they will keep up with that and like also like put little tags on. So the next time you come into the restaurant, the person may recognize that you reserved on Open Table. They look at their history. They know that you like to order red wine. So now the restaurant is coming. The waiter or waitress is coming up to you. Would you like some red wine with your dinner? And you like, you know what? I would, because they know via Open Table, via Resy, that you like red wine. Another one could be, you sit longer than your reservation. So if your reservation's from 3 o'clock and you and your party ain't leave till 7, 8 o'clock, restaurants know that via your reservation times, and now they're going to adjust accordingly. Of course, the one that I mentioned is tipping. If you ain't no tipper or you are a big tipper, definitely that is a tag that could follow you around from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant. So the question is, are we okay with restaurants knowing this data to quote unquote create a curated experience, or y'all just using my data and y'all build a profile on me, good or bad, that's going to follow me no matter where I go on these apps or wherever I go when I actually go to a restaurant?
Well, I don't have the most confidence that the restaurants are actually going to tailor, quote unquote, the experience based on the data. I think this is just a way for Open Table to sell the restaurants more
Mm-hmm.
information,
Sure.
and figure out how to continue to keep the apps free for us to use.
Mm-hmm.
I just said we're the product, so let's just give them. I hope we don't get penalized for things like this, because I use Open Table quite a bit. I use Resi, but most of the restaurants in the Philadelphia area are on Open Table, so I do use it quite a bit. I tip very well, so hopefully, that information would get funneled in there and benefit me in some way. But I also do. If I have a problem with something, I bring that out. I'm just thinking, because I literally was just at dinner this past Friday, and the food just was not prepared well. It was not great. And the entree was too expensive for me to just accept it, because I had asked it was lamb chops, and I had asked for them to be done medium. They were not medium. They were like almost burnt and dry. And
I thought it would be the opposite.
I was like, you guys,
I thought it'd be almost rare.
No, they were so well done, way too well done, and they dry. And I was like, I can't. It was like a $44 entree, and I'm just like, I'm not going to sit here and eat this, knowing it's nowhere close to what I asked for. So I sent it back, and there was something else I had an issue with at the restaurant, and so I'm hoping things like that don't get tracked as well, and like, oh, now I'm labeled difficult, and every time I come into the restaurant or any restaurant, I'm flagged now. I think about there was
I think about Uber.
A Seinfeld episode when Elaine went to the doctor, and she was fussing, and they flagged her, and so like every doctor she went to after that knew she was a difficult patient. And I'm like, I see this being the same way. So hopefully it doesn't make your dining experience worse, because eating out is too damn expensive for people to not get great service because Open Table told the server you weren't the best tipper. Like, that's not an excuse not to give you great service regardless. So hopefully the experience doesn't get diminished because of these ratings.
So I was just looking now. It just turns out that last Thursday I used Open Table for the first time probably in months. I'm just looking. I probably use Open Table maybe 3 times, 4 times a year, somewhere in that range, when I want to go to a nice restaurant and want to make that reservation or whatever the case is. But as you were talking, Steph, I actually just went to go look up and see, can you use Open Table without logging in? And you can. So this might be one way to get around this. The problem is that even when you use it without an account, you still have to supply an email address. So what you may have to do then is, if you got Gmail, you can just create an alias for every single time you use it. But that's like doing work just for them not
to
be tracking. So just, I guess it depends on what is your level of being tracked. If you give them your information, they're going to use your information. Like you said it already. If you ain't paying for something, you are the product. So that is the case here. So yeah, it only makes sense that a restaurant, if they can get this information from Open Table, and you're probably right, Open Table probably charges to get additional information that they have on folks, and then they can use their system inside of the restaurant and pair it up with the information they get from Open Table and build a profile on people who are coming in, so they know this person ain't gonna tip. They stay here all the time, so you're gonna put them all the way in the back by the doors is opening up, and maybe after a while they just get tired of people, walking in and walking out the door from bringing food in and out. And I can absolutely see that kind of stuff happening. So it's like, am I shocked? Am I surprised? No, I honestly feel like I should have known. I should have known. If you're using the app and you put your information in the app, they're going to use your information to build a profile on you. It only makes sense that they would do it.
Well, just like, I mean, it's all random, right? Because I'm reading this story and it says certain Michelin-starred restaurants spend hours each week digging into guests' social media profiles to predict their preferences. They give an example of a San Francisco restaurant has a database of 115,000 past guests in case they ever come back. So the story is kind of highlighting how individual restaurants kind of do something similar, like like a Cheers. I think of it like a Cheers. When you come in, Norm, right? Everybody comes in, they know where you sit, they know your favorite drink or whatever case may be. And for a restaurant, for a frequent patron of a restaurant, I could see that being like a special touch. Like, oh yeah, okay. They know what time it is, right? They they recognize, and appreciate my presence. But again, like Stephanie mentioned at the top, we're not sure if Open Table and some of these other ones that is collecting this data, is that going to be your persona everywhere you go, not just to this one place, right?
I think it seems like that's where it's going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had mentioned Uber and Uber ratings and stuff like that. I wholeheartedly believe that there are drivers that won't pick up people that have less than a 4 point whatever, star. And I feel like this is going to be a very similar thing to where this, all of these little data points they have about you is going to create this avatar
Profile.
and it's going to follow
Mm-hmm.
you around to every restaurant you try to get into. And again, it sucks because I think this is not one of those situations where you can take the aggregate of restaurant experience as indication of how this person is necessarily going to act, because each restaurant is different. You have a different experience at each restaurant. The server might have been an asshole at that restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things go into a restaurant experience. They're just all unique enough that I don't know that somebody should be penalized for what their overall rating might end up being based on, now if they just don't tip, then I guess that's one thing. But again, tips are not required. They're that's a voluntary thing to do. So, the objective should always just be to make sure that the diners have the best experience. So,
right. And you can't tell me that restaurants who will create this tag or this profile or this avatar in order to be nice to patrons, you ain't gonna tell me that they ain't also gonna do it to be mean as hell to restaurants at the same time. Come on now.
Right.
Or I'm just thinking, like, for those 5-star restaurants, to where you like Open Table, you can just go on there and just pick a date usually and get someplace close to what you're looking for. There are restaurants that you can't get a seating for, for a month or 6 weeks. And I would just imagine that if you don't have a good rating on here, if the restaurant doesn't like you,
you might never
get in, that joker. So
mm-hmm.
I can see something like that happening.
Put you on a wait list and be like, keep you on the wait list.
Definitely.
And then somebody else come back through that's got a 5-star rating or whatever the case. Oh yeah. Come on. We got you.
So Terrance, does this make you operate any different as far as booking a reservation?
I hardly ever use Resi or Open Table. I've used them in the past. I hardly ever use them enough to be affected by this, simply because I don't think I frequent places to where you need a for real reservation, and then half of the time, if I do that, I'm just calling the restaurant directly. I'm a call the restaurant people directly, because it's like, I guess maybe I don't rely on Open Table or those apps to get my reservation details correct. Now, again, you're just saying, well, what other details is there? Just what time, how many people coming or whatever. But I've run into problems, book something, and they're like, no, we ain't got your reservation. I'm like, I'm looking at it right here. Sorry. So half of the time I'm just calling the restaurant. So to answer your question, this really don't affect me that much. Now going forward, if I'm at a restaurant and they say we only take Resi or Open Table, in the back of my mind, I'm like you said, Rob, let me get this burner, email address. let me get some information to where if something go down, I can wash my hands, and I ain't, in the back of my mind, it's like, I wonder if they remember that last time when that one person in my party bound, or whatever the case may be, right? So yes, it will be in the back of my mind, but it doesn't affect me directly now.
Like I said, I only use it a couple times a year. In fact, this year I've used it twice. I used it this past Thursday. I used it Valentine's Day. That's the only time I've actually used Open Table. So I'm probably all right. But yeah, I might have to start going with, Robb with 2 B's, Big with 2 B's, 1977. Just to throw them off the
the thing
trail.
is, though, you get points on Open Table as well for rewards and stuff like that.
I don't use enough.
I mean, I do. Yeah. So I'm keeping my points on my real email. And like, if y'all think I'm doing something wrong, so be it. But
no, you ain't doing nothing
I will
wrong.
continue. I'm talking about the restaurant. If the restaurant people, the people at the restaurant or don't think I'm the ideal diner, you know, I will continue to stand up for myself and tip accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all, let's get to this next story. Steph, this one actually, it just upsets me. But the way you wrote this is your child on either side of the flip camera challenge? So tell us what the flip camera challenge is and what it's all about, because I hadn't heard about this until you put it in the rundown.
Yeah, it's you know, just another way for people to be mean to each other on the internet. And it's just like, why? So what happens is it's usually a group of students, and so far I've only seen young people doing the challenge. A group of students will ask someone to record them doing something, usually dancing. You know, they want to do a dance step, you know, or whatever, TikTok. Yeah. Well, it the way it works is they actually have the camera with the front facing with the front facing camera facing them. Because because they tell the person, we want to be able to see ourselves getting the dance right. So hold the camera with the with the rear facing camera facing you. The person holding the phone has the rear facing camera facing them. They start dancing and doing whatever. And then at some point they run up and say, oh, hold on. And they flip the camera to the back facing camera. So you see who's the person holding the phone recording the video. And, you know, everybody's beautiful in God's eyes, but typically the person holding, they give the phone to somebody that, you know, would be considered, you know, wouldn't be a movie star. Don't have movie star looks. Or
their face is not symmetrical.
Even beyond somebody that's not conventionally attractive, it could be the person who, you know, is just the outcast, or the kids just want to deliberately single this person out and show that they were excluded from whatever they were doing on the front facing camera. So, you know, and the music, it's the audio that goes with it, because it's typically some very disparaging audio that cuts in.
So
like
that's
the
song
or whatever. Once you flip, you know, when they edit it, once you see that camera flip and you see the other person, the music changes, the audio changes, and you're like, oh, how are you going to play that person? Like, you know what I mean?
Because I was listening. I'm like, I was listening like, this sounds hilarious.
Until it's not. Until like, one of these kids,
like you said, until they are adding stuff. It'd be one thing to just randomly do it with somebody, or like, you know, popular trendy videos, they'll do it and then somebody's looking crazy on purpose, because that's the whole thing.
But and that's the thing. These people this is being done without these people's consent. Most of these people don't know that it was being done,
and they're just being nice.
When you see, they were just being nice to help this person, help these kids take this video, and when you see it, they don't even realize the camera's been flipped. They're still sitting there looking and holding the camera. You know what I mean? Looking, you know, like whatever. And like I said, most of the people aren't conventionally attractive, so the kids are getting a laugh out of it because they're cracking up, and the audio is shitting on the people basically. And it is just such a mean thing to do. So, you know, regardless of what side of the challenge your kid is on, number one, you know, encourage your kids not to do this shit, because it's awful.
Because it's mean. If they're doing it,
it's super mean.
Right. If this is the only, now I can see this just being funny, you know, but if the purpose of doing this, the sole purpose is to
mock, mock and tease, and that's it. And then, you know, if your kid is out there, and now we got to tell our kids, don't be nice and help people film videos anymore. You know what I mean? Or if somebody hands you a phone, I would say, you know, right now, at least anyway, if somebody hands you a phone and asks you to record them.
Yeah.
If they're not using the rear camera, don't do it, because you just don't know, and you don't want your kids to end up in a position where maybe that video that they were in goes viral and thousands and millions of people see it, and now your kid commits suicide in their bedroom that night because they've been bullied because of this video. You know what I mean? It's just like I've seen it way too. It was just really important for me to get this story in, because this is what I do. I talk to kids about this kind of thing all the time, and I think people like to try to make it seem like it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. It's a joke. Get over it.
Like I said, there's a difference between some people using it nefariously, but most people, it's just like this fun thing, and the person on the other end is dressed up in a costume, and we don't see them until they turn it around, and now they dressed as whatever the case may be.
Even if they would flip it and then tell the person they flipped it, and the person looks surprised, and they're like, "Oh, ha ha ha! Now I'm on camera," and they do something fun because now they're on camera. That would be different. But literally, the whole purpose of the trend is just to demean and make somebody feel bad. And it's just like I've just spoken to way too many students who got to that point where they were ready to take themselves out because of stuff like this. Like it seems it's not a big deal to us because we grown and we grew up in a time when, ripping on people was the thing. Like there's nothing you can say to me that's gonna hurt my feelings. But these kids ain't the same. They're not built like that. No. And so it's just like,
and the internet is currency, man. If you're on the internet wrong, that's your rep wrong.
Exactly. And that video is out there. You didn't have any control over it. You didn't know, like you could have had spinach in your teeth, or your hair wasn't done that day, or whatever the case may be, whatever motivated them to ask you to do it. And it's just such a mean, and deliberately, it's just so mean. And I'm like, don't do it. Please don't do it.
So I'm hoping that this is going to be short-lived for a few reasons. Number one, as people become aware of it, I was like you, Terrance. When I just read it, it's like I didn't get it until I saw a couple of the videos and saw the picture.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
I see what y'all doing. It's like this. Y'all were not in it. You were making fun of these folks. But as people become aware of it, and you doing this, you think you're doing them a solid, and they come up and hold it. It's like, oh, my bad, I dropped your phone on accident. That's just
okay.
The one. The other
that's
one
what's going to happen, right?
You may not think that person is attractive, but you didn't assess the hands they may or may not have, and it's the whole thing about the problem for you at that point.
But the thing about this, the reason why this is so sneaky is because if you are not aware, you won't know until you see the video.
Until you see the video.
Now, if you caught on mid video and you're like, oh man, what y'all doing? And then you get angsty or whatever the case may be, that's one thing. But half of the time, well, most of the time, you don't know until the video's already.
That's the thing. All of the videos I've seen that have been posted, you can tell the person has no clue that they flipped that camera around, and they're now looking at them and basically laughing at them. They have the people look so sweet and so excited to help these kids out, and invested in whatever they're doing on the other side of the camera with dancing and whatever, very invested in it and actually enjoying the experience
and being a part of it.
Yes, to be a part of it, and just to do all of that just to make fun of somebody, like what is wrong with you? Honestly,
there's that.
What is wrong with you?
Here's the other part of it too. What I did notice is these are generally young kids that are doing this. They look like they was 12, 13, 14 years old in the videos that I saw. They're not thinking this all the way through, because your face is also on the video. So when it starts to go, if let's say it goes viral, well, people are going to see it, but a lot of folks are like, wait a minute, I'm not laughing at the person. I'm looking at you and trying to figure out who you are. And now they've opened themselves up to the same type of ridicule and cyberbullying.
That's right.
If it's at a school, some of these schools, they're not messing around at all with these cyberbullying policies that they have. And you're looking at suspensions and expulsions and stuff like that.
That's
because you thought you were you thought you was basically just having some fun. And it turns out that, you can't go to school there anymore because they done labeled you as a cyberbully. So
you thought you was being cute, and your digital foot. This is just as much, and that's what I try to tell students, like who just get online and let little keyboard warrior fingers go ham. This is just as much a part of your digital footprint as it is the person that you're bullying. You know what I mean? You might only be thinking that you're trying to antagonize that person, but you're leaving a trail the same way you're bringing them into and jeopardizing their digital footprint. I don't know that you jeopardize their digital footprint. I think you just traumatize them psychologically, because they're going to end up looking like the victim in all of this. But your digital footprint is something you need to consider as well. Even if you were only one of the people in the video and not the person that actually went and flipped the camera or who came up with the idea or whatever, you knew what was going on. You saw what happened. Y'all had a whole big laugh about it. And just the fact that you're in the video at all could really be a problem for you, detrimental to you. So I would say parents, just, have a conversation with your kids about this. Again, if one of their friends is trying to encourage them, let's do the flip the camera, child. No, I don't want to be in that video. I ain't being in this video. Nope, 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 nope. And then two, if someone asks you to record them, if a group of kids ask you to record them, maybe you just got to be like, nah, I can't do it. Or if they don't want to use the rear camera, then you can't do it, because you don't want to subject yourself to the possibility that you're in this video. It's just so sad that this is what we got to get on a podcast and talk about, because like I said, I've just seen it too many times, and if I can prevent one kid from feeling some kind of way because some people decided to do something mean, then so be it.
Well, here's the next thing. If you're going to do, if you are doing this for someone, put your thumb over the camera hole on the back so that they can't actually video you.
Right?
You just got to do what you got to do. Because if you're holding the phone and you're holding the face,
hold your hand over the phone.
Hold your hand over top of
it.
Hold your hand right here.
There's no real reason for somebody to say, hey, can you do a picture or a video of me? And oh, by the way, hold the phone like this. There's no real reason. The second somebody says that, the jig is up for me. And I think
honestly, now there is, because most of the dance videos, that get recorded on TikTok use the front facing camera. You know what I mean? They're doing and if you're outside trying to do it and you don't have a tripod and you don't have, what I mean? Like, I can absolutely see why it would make sense to hold the camera like that and to ask someone to hold a camera like that. But it just sucks that they've taken advantage of the fact that there is a legitimate reason to shoot someone that way, to try to flip it, no pun intended, and do something mean.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of one of my oldest daughter's friends from middle school and high school. Her friend got into some trouble, and her punishment was her mom took her phone away from her. But before she took it, she actually changed her voicemail and said, "This is Logan's mom." I shouldn't have said her name. I'll beat that up. This is somebody's mom. You know what? Yeah, she is a doctor now, so she has turned it all the way around. But she basically said, "This is such and such's mom. She is on punishment and cannot use her phone for the next 3 months. Please don't call again." And it was like, because she was doing some stupid stuff. And it's like, no, it's like, this ain't your phone. This is my phone. It's like my bill. I paid for it. I bought the phone and I paid for the bill. It's my phone. You were just being allowed to use it, and you have abused your privileges for the next 90 days on using this phone. So I hope that parents, because it's like, this is Gen X parents. I don't know how some of these millennial parents is parenting these days, especially the younger millennials. So I just hope that if you find your child doing something like this, you take the phone away from them. They don't have to have the phone, or you lock that phone down so tight that they can't do anything with it other than call you and call you and call people that you designate they can call.
That would absolutely be an appropriate punishment, is take that phone for a little while, because clearly, you don't have the responsibility to use it properly and be a good digital citizen. So no phone for you.
So y'all, this last thing we're going to talk about today is it's basically a report that came out of, let's see, where was this done? It was done at USC Annenberg. And it's a study titled Inequality in Popular Podcast, an examination of gender and race and ethnicity. And as I said, it was conducted at USC Annenberg. And what they have found, and this is an obvious alert, is that podcasting is dominated by white men. And I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, we kind of know that. But when I look at some of these numbers are like, wow, I didn't realize it was, even this, as close as what it is in some cases. So the big one here is that podcast hosts are primarily male. So 35.9% of podcast hosts. And what they did was, just to give you a little bit of background, they looked at like 640 top podcasts on Spotify. To come up with this list. So when they look at the the 640 shows, 35.9% are men, 33.2% are women. That's not, that's negligible. Those are pretty close. Men outnumber, but it's pretty close. But when you start getting down into like participation in podcasts and what type of show it is, like if it's a business and tech, that's 92.3% men. If it's sports and fitness, 81% men. Comedy, 76%. Education, 60%. The only place where women...
I'm part of the 0.7%.
It's
just FYI.
Yeah, 7.7%. But the only one where women actually outpace men is true crime, where it's 53% to 47%. That's also the one that is the closest. So it is, what we would expect. But like I said, I was not thinking that the numbers in certain areas would be as stark as they are, like 92.3% to 7.7% for business. So there's a whole lot of women business owners out there. I thought that would have been a little higher than that.
Well, so my questions about this survey, and we won't be able to find them on this podcast, is they took these numbers or sampled and pulled this data from 600 or so of the most popular podcasts.
Yes.
So are they taking that by saying because the most popular podcasts are ran by white men majorly, that is what that means Black women of color are underrepresented? Or do we need to look at these, dig a little bit deeper into this data and discover all podcasts versus just a smaller 600 of the most popular podcasts? Because I give it to you all day long that the most popular podcasts are going to be run by white men. That's like, why'd y'all waste this time doing this study, right?
Right.
I literally titled this obvious alert. It's kind of like, well, duh.
Right.
Here's what's interesting, though. When it comes to how these perform compared to other types of media. So when you look at the top 100 podcast, it's 22.3%. Another 25.2% of film, 44.9% of TV, 44.6% of popular music. So basically, this is trending right where film is, as far as, men and others. Now, the numbers actually get also interesting when you start to look at not just men and women, but when you look at white compared to underrepresented communities. We get dwarfed, in the top 640. It's like, I mean, these numbers are just like, wow. It's like, we know that there are a lot of Black folks that are doing podcasts. There's just not a lot in the top 640. Now,
I mean, I think I agree with Terrance as far as like, I would love to see a bigger sample because, it's easy to, like to your point, I don't think anybody would not believe that the top 500, 600 podcasts would be mostly by white people, or white men. But I think if you're talking about representation, if you grow that sample out a little bit, zoom that sample out a little bit, then I don't know that those numbers are as stark.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
As you
I would
you
absolutely
made them.
agree with you. One of the interesting points, though, was that when they do the top 100 podcasts on Spotify, 22.3% are underrepresented hosts. But when they go to the top 600, top 592 shows, 20.8% are underrepresented. So it does drop actually from the top 100 to the 492 that come after that. But I still think that you're right, Steph, that if you get down into it's not the top 100, it's the top 10,000, it's the top 25,000, you probably would see some of those numbers come up. And it's simply because we are underrepresented. So if we're not in the top 600, in 40, if we're not in the top 592, you're not going to see the numbers there. You have to get to where the numbers are.
So what would you contribute that to? I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff, but you personally, that disparity in that 640 or whatever.
This is something that I think is the case for all shows that are not generally done by the group that is. Let me rephrase this. I think that when you are something other than a white man or a white woman, the audience is intended to be whatever you are. So if you are a black man, it's assumed that your audience is for is a black man. If you're a black woman, it's assumed your audience is black woman. I would even say for white women, if your show is hosted by a white woman, it's assumed that your show is specifically for white women. I don't think that white men get that. I don't.
They don't. Absolutely not.
Maybe to some extent, but not to the same extent. To where we can actually probably measure that. So I think that is a big part of it, that people think that, oh, this show is hosted by black people, therefore it is a black show. This show is hosted by Latino people, therefore it is a Latino show. This show is hosted by white dudes. It's just a show that you have to go figure out whether or not the show is for you. And I think that is, it's not unique to anyone except for white men. I think they're the only group that probably, if you just see a white host of a show, you look to see, well, what is the show about? And then you decide whether you want to watch it, not whether or not it was
America.
Welcome to America. Also, what I would attribute to that as well is my assumption, this is purely based on speculation, is podcasts hosted by other people outside of the majority, right, that we're talking about, they tend to be more informative. They tend to be more researched. They tend to be more in-depth, like talk about the true crime, right? Those are in-depth podcasts to where you got to do a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of, effort in order to publish or whatever the case may be, outside of, like talking about sports. Now, again, there's a lot of stats that go into sports, but when you go to a podcast hosted by, whomever, like a couple white dudes for this subject or this story, I don't know if you're really trying to learn anything. You just want to, find out what happened in sports.
Well,
you just want to get a laugh.
And then that's it. Podcasts too are just them spouting off.
Right. Which
type
is
shit. Yeah, I mean,
and
they just happen to have the personality that, they're funny or controversial or whatever that might be. But they just have the personality to get you to tune in every week. But they just talking shit every week.
Right. And unfortunately, that's probably what a lot of people who listen to podcasts, they really don't want to be informed. They just want to pass the time. So let me listen to somebody being loud and ridiculous or goofy. Ha 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 ha. And then I just, turn off the podcast when I'm done listening.
So podcast is entertainment versus
educational, informative research. And those typically, surprisingly or not, are ran by women. So, the ones that do the in-depth, and they, thorough. Dudes ain't trying to be thorough.
So I would say, having looked at top 100, top 250, top 500 list, I look at those things regularly to see what shows are there. Two things are true. Terrance, everything that you said is true What you said, however, is not true. There are a lot of shows that are in that are not just they're not the bar the bar show to where it's just people. It's not just pure entertainment. It's literally some show that was well researched. It could be news. It could be like news magazines. There's a lot of really high end shows that are there. They just happen to be hosted by white men. So that's part of it. But it is also true that a lot of those shows are the Pat McAfee type shows. They are purely entertainment. Now, I don't want to say that you don't get information from McAfee. You can if that's who you listen to, but it is more of I'm hanging out with my boys and this is what we do. And there are a lot of shows like that. There are a lot of black shows like that. There's a lot of Latino shows like that. They just aren't the top of the podcast list. They might be 1,000 and down.
Were there stats, Rob, on like how many of the shows were actually like studio produced, like Gimlet Media produced or Vox Media like versus just independent like us out here, just doing our thing, like versus, Sirius XM podcast or exactly.
This isn't coming from this list, but I thought about that, so I went and looked. So when you look at just the top 100 shows on Spotify, I don't know if these were done at the same time, but the top 100 shows on Spotify, 74 were 26 were considered independent shows of the top 100.
So 3/4 of them are produced.
3/4 are produced, right. And they have enormous budgets behind them.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go.
So
that answers that.
So 26 were considered independent, but of those 26, like 13 or 14 of them, they were independent in the sense that it was a much, much smaller company. So they met the threshold for independent, but they still had $1 million budgets.
They still have money behind them. Yeah.
So it's you generally do not have the true independents that are in that top 100. Now, I want to be fair. There are some folks who are doing shows at the level we're doing it, and they're making the top 100, but it ain't 26 of them. It's like 226 of them. It's just a few of them that have actually gotten that big that are making that top 100. Top 1,000, that is absolutely not the case. But yes, the shows that have money are the ones that are generally in the top 100, and those shows that have money generally are run by white men.
So the better question is, how can we get some money and get these studios to, if y'all listening, I promise I'll stop cursing if y'all.
So we need to add some people to the roster.
I'm saying, come on.
But here's the thing. We talked about this on this show, and folks who are listening, I wouldn't say folks who are listening would be surprised, because the folks who listen are the folks who listen. You would look at us and you would look at our show and you would think that our show is dominated by African-American listeners. That is not the case. Our African-American listeners, most of who listen to our show, yes, but it's like 58% to 40. It's like 58-42. You wouldn't necessarily, look at that. When you start to look at other shows that have the quote unquote black shows, they are 85 to 90% African-American listening audience. And that, that's one of the issues. It's like these shows are out there. It's just information. It's just entertainment. It's just content. But because it is done by a particular group, you just assume that before you've even listened or anything else, oh, this is not for me. This is a black woman hosting this. Oh, this is not for me. It's a black man hosting it. And you just scroll through when you see that artwork. I can't remember this study. And it wasn't really a study. It was kind of an experiment to where you could see if shows that were hosted by black people that did not use their face on the podcast artwork, if they would actually get better numbers if they slightly renamed it and then relisted it back up to Apple. And the answer was, yes, it would. Yes, it does.
Of course it did. That's why they used to put white people on album covers of black singers back in the day. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot has changed, unfortunately. So, white people, we welcome you. Come, listen. we need the listenership.
What is
Detect John is for everybody.
What is the white guy? I can't think of his name. He just passed away recently, and he did a an album back in the, I guess, 70s or 80s. What Love Can't Do. Bobby Caldwell. And I remember
he had the silhouette on the bench.
Yes, because you can't tell that he's white. They purposely did it as a silhouette so you wouldn't know. And I think it was Kevin on stage that was telling the story. Like, he was today years old, probably a couple years ago, when he actually found out that Bobby Caldwell was actual, white guy. And they did that specifically. It's like, if they don't know who's making the music, they'll listen to it before they actually make a determination on it. And it's the exact same thing here, folks. If you take the black faces off, we're never going to do that. But there are shows like Today Tested. They just want to see what happens if I take my black face off of this and I just have some random artwork on here that doesn't tell you that I'm black. Do my numbers go up? And the answer was yes, they do. Now, this was from this is pre-pandemic stuff that I was looking at, but it just stood out to me. It's like, so yeah, it's like this was very obvious to me. It's like, yes, the white guys are number one, white women are number two, and then everyone else is significantly below that.
And everybody else, yeah. Mm-hmm. Welcome to America.
Well, folks, we did not have any new patrons this week, but once again, if you would like to support the show, one of the best ways to do so is by becoming a patron. So head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, and you can sign up and become a supporter of the show. So that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or head to my website at stephaniehumphrey.com and sign up for my newsletter.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at The Tech John, The Tech JAWN on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler. Until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.